Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As you can see, we got an upgrade. We have microphones this time, which is awesome, and everybody can hear. We wanted to thank you for coming to the third of our series of the Artist WorkLab. And tonight's topic is setting up e-commerce, and we have three amazing panelists. And David's got some great introduction questions for them as well. My name is Jane Davila. I am the executive director of Metro Art Studios. And this is a series that we have wanted to do for a really, really long time. Now that we're finally in our new building and set up, we are collaborating with the Cultural Alliance. It's like the perfect matchup here to be able to do this. We've got topics scheduled out through next spring, and we're always taking suggestions for more topics. And this is really meant to be very much like a peer-to-peer situation. The artists on the panel are just like the artists in the audience with more expertise in a particular subject. But we encourage you to ask questions as you go along. We'll answer them. And we're just delighted that you're here. We're really happy about that. And David will introduce himself.
Yes, hi, everyone.
Microphone.
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm the executive director of the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County, which I trust all of you know about. If you don't, I would encourage you to have a look at our website, culturalalliancefc.org. For $50 a year, you can become a member, have your own webpage, post all your events, and be part of our community. I encourage you to look into that. If you're not interested in joining, but you can still get our artist newsletter, which comes out every month, which is jam-packed full of opportunities, calls for entry, grant possibilities, and so on. And another thing just came up. Every month we have something called the Funding Booster, where we talk with a grant writer about any grants that are currently out there. You can ask any questions you like. It's completely free. You just have to sign up for it. And the Artist Respond grant is coming up from the Connecticut Office of the Arts, which is a grant for artists working on a project in the community. And I think the grants are $3,000, Laurie? Yeah, so that's going to be one of the subjects. So that's Wednesday, August the 9th. So that's open to artists as well as cultural nonprofits. So.
Yeah, I'm part of that group as a member, and I have to say it's like so helpful because if you're working on a particular grant and you have questions about what you're doing, how you're writing it, the moderator or the expert will answer your questions like in real time, tell you specific advice about what you should include or not include from years and years and years of experience of grant writing and being on the panels that review grants. So I find it invaluable. And if you get your application to the moderator early enough, not the day before it's due, like 2 weeks before it's due, they'll review it for you and help you make it stronger. So what an amazing thing to offer to the community for free, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's done by Zoom. You don't have to go anywhere.
Great. So shall we just start?
Yeah, let's start. Yeah.
So as you know, this is all about e-commerce and different platforms that artists have used and are using. And because I'm such an origin freak, I always want to know how something started. I'm just going to ask our artists, how did you discover the platform that you're currently using?
Yeah. And tell us your name and what you do as well.
Yeah. So let's start with Russell as your closest.
Sure. Hello, I'm Russell Miyaki. I'm an artist here at Metro Art Studios. And I'm also a creative director for a corporation in the city. So e-commerce is definitely a big part of my world. How did I stumble onto the e-commerce world, or specifically for what I'm using? I use Saatchi, and the irony to all of that is it happened when COVID hit, and when COVID hit, everything shut down, as everyone knows, and that's when I started looking for ways to continue getting my work out there because I was just purely on social. And I researched all different platforms. And
How
the,
long ago was this, Russell? Did you say?
this was in, 2019, I think it was, when all this hit. Something like that. I think it was like,
2020 was COVID, so that was March, right?
yeah, I mean, it was
Before.
it was a little before COVID, but things were kind of getting weird at the time, anyways. And then so I
Weirder.
weirder, yeah, exactly.
Noticeably, a more overt, sudden sense of awareness of the weirdness.
Yeah, yeah.
But they've always been weird.
Yeah, and it prompted a lot of different behaviors, and one was, of course, is how do I branch out and find ways to continue reaching out. And after researching all different platforms, the one that came out with the most favorable reviews and the kind of artwork that I saw on the site with the kind of artists was Saatchi. And so I started the relationship that way. That's how I came onto that platform.
Good. And no looking back.
No looking back.
So, Philip, tell us a little bit about your work and how you came across your platform.
Yeah, hey, my name is Philip Post. I am an artist and a designer. I primarily make clothing under the name Dirtbag with the E. Dirtbag means divine energy radiates through beauty and genius. I have a shop that's inside the Arcade Mall on the second floor that's about to be 10 years at the same location. I primarily use Shopify for my website, and I've been using Shopify for the last 10 years. Before then, I was doing free commerce where I didn't want to pay a monthly subscription fee. And before then, I was using Big Cartel until my business got too big. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the Shopify thing and fortunate that I know a bit about code. I know a bit about HTML and all that stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
that's about it.
Would you just include when you're describing what your role is in running your e-com?
I do everything. So I design the stuff, I do the product shots, the newsletter, all that stuff is all me.
Pretty much the same. Everything. The difference with Saatchi is it's less having to worry about coding and because it's all set up for you. So it's basically making the work quality enough to upload, and that's basically it. Yeah.
Can you spell Saatchi?
SAATCHI, and the full name is Saatchi Art.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nicky. I'm based in Norwalk. I'm a mixed media artist. I started up seriously painting again after a very long hiatus with kids, like in 2018. And I started out doing some in-person events, in-person like markets and that, a lot of work. So I decided I really wanted to sell online as well. And I started off with Etsy as a platform because I do my artwork and I do printed products with my artwork on as well. I went with Etsy because it seemed very approachable, make it very easy for you. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. You just got to get your products on there and they take care of the sales tax and all that kind of thing. I now also sell via my website. I'm slowly transitioning away from Etsy. Because they're taking a bigger and bigger cut, and there's more restrictions and there's more pressures and things. But I won't completely abandon it. But I also wanted to sell through my website as well. So yeah, that's basically me.
What will your new platform be?
I use Squarespace to host my website, and then you have the option to have an e-commerce platform on there. And it's also it's very user friendly. You don't have to know how to code or any of that.
I'm sorry, what's the name of that thing?
Squarespace. Yeah. Okay.
Which is this? Was it Square?
Squarespace. Yeah, altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a platform that builds website. Like you can build your own website on it. So like Squarespace, Wix, Weebly are a bunch of different platforms, and many of them also offer the option of it's usually a widget and something you'd pay a little bit extra for, but you can set up a shopping cart and basically a store on your own website, and it's templated, which means that you can just drag and drop photos and descriptions, and it goes with the theme that you choose. So it's fairly seamless and it's really good. It is, as you said, approachable. Russell, what would you consider to be the advantages and disadvantages of selling on a platform like Saatchi?
So I'll start with the advantages. The first big advantage is a global reach. The audience is already curated basically for you. It's at the last I saw, there's a stat of 110,000 artists are currently on there, but then the global reach triples that. So all of these are collectors already in the audience looking to purchase art. And for me, I did have a store that I attached to my website using Squarespace, and it was doing okay, but when I went on to Saatchi, there was just a night and day results because of the amount of volume of global reach that it has. And then the other big, huge advantage of Saatchi is it's not just about a platform. It's about an entire experience of the relationship you build with your collectors. You're not having to worry about the logistics of shipping and worrying about the pounds, worrying about how to label. They do that all for you. And all you're doing is just filling in a confirmation email that you get when you get a sale. And it says, do you accept this offer? If you say yes, then they said, great, congratulations. And then they send you another electronic form that has all of the information that you fill out that says, when is it going to be ready? And here are the packaging instructions. And so off it goes. The UPS arrives at your door or your studio and picks it up, and off it goes. So those, I think, are the two main things. The disadvantages, I think, of Saatchi is going back to that 110,000 competition and growing. There's a lot of artists and amazing artists on Saatchi. That's what kind of drew me to that, because there's just great artists there. But at the same time, it just makes you have to put on different hats. You have to put on your SEO hat. You have to put on your digital marketing hat. You have to be able to understand to color correct your work so that people understand that, or people get what your real art looks like. And then you also have to dedicate your time to Saatchi. You can't just set it and forget it. You have to continue curating content, keeping in connection with all your collectors out there. The more you're active, the more you rise in popularity, and the more that the online curators at Saatchi promote you. They will feature you in an article, they will feature you, and when they do that, that again, going back to that global reach, you get incredible results, and the traffic to not only your website and your social just skyrockets. So
when you say curate, what do you mean? Do you mean you have to move your work around quite a bit?
Refresh,
yeah.
upload, watch your prices, adjust prices, and make sure that if you say go on vacation, that you can put a little notice on there, because when a collector wants your work and there's a delay in getting a response to them, that affects your own brand. So, yeah, it's like a disadvantage, but it is also, a labor of love that you have to be dedicated to keeping engaged with the platform.
So what's your medium, and are you selling originals or prints?
Originals. You can sell prints. The beauty of the platform is it gives you all the flexibility. If you're selling The medium I do is acrylic and oils on canvas, but there are photographers, there's sculptures, there's digital. The medium is wide open, and they give you the platform to be able to sell appropriately. And then, of course, it's the algorithm's smart, so that the buyers come in and they search by artist, medium, price, and of course they do some price comparisons too. But they're able to get right to the kind of work you do, and that's why it's important. You put your SEO hat on, make sure you're putting the right keywords on your work that describes what your work is all about, and you're found a lot easier that way.
So they send you a box and you just put your art in there?
No, you have to provide your own packaging, but they provide pretty strict guidance on, and when I say strict, I say pretty detailed guidance on how to package and protect your work. And from that day on, when I first did it, I've used their methodology of packaging work, and it's been incredible because it not only protects your work, but it presents the work to your collector. They have you think beyond just shipping that thing out the door. They have you think about what is the person going to go through when they open the box, take the glycine off your work, and hold it up and look at it. They want that totality of experience to be perfect, and it's important because if the collector you send your work to struggles with your box and looks damaged and looks unpresentable, that affects your brand, and they put a lot of emphasis on helping you through that.
And they tell you who bought your art?
Oh yeah, you get the name.
Very briefly, what's the cost or what's the commission that they charge?
35%.
That's just flat.
Yeah.
That's what they get?
Pardon me?
They get 35.
35%, yeah, and it's well spent.
They have their monthly fee.
Nope.
Using the service. It's just once they agree to represent you. And
Yeah.
But Russell, I'm on Sachi as well, and can you describe how you have to, the shipping price is actually added into the price of your work, so the
Yep.
customer is actually paying for it
Yep.
upfront?
Yep, and that's the issue about like price correctly. So price what your work is worth, but obviously you keep in mind that they charge the customer shipping charges, and the way they do that is they've got just like this wild, incredible deal with the biggest shipping companies around that they can charge these flat rates outrageously cheap. And it makes it easier on them to charge. And all they ask from the artist is when you're uploading your work, you're very accurate in describing what your work is, but the size, the dimensions, because then what they have is they have it all in their system of how to calculate weight based on what materials you're using and the size, and it goes right in, and that's how they calculate the shipping costs.
How often you need to promote? It seems like an Instagram that people is every day.
You can, well, yes, it has, Saatchi has a community, and they have several communities that artists can join, and you can converse with them. They're part of the other art fair that goes around in Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles, which is fairly big shows. But they have their own communities. But what I would advise, though, is you connect all your social to the platform. You connect it up. So when you post, you can connect it out to your social as well. Highly advised to do that.
Yeah. So just because I'm a major numbers nerd, oh, you have a question? Sorry.
Do you, so you make your connection with your collectors, do you get commissions off the site? Like, are you allowed to have that relationship? Like, if one of your collectors says, oh, I need this piece and these colors, how does that work?
So are you referring to like commissions?
Yeah, through Saatchi, because you meet your collectors there.
Yep.
So can you work with that
You can do yes, you can do commission work. They just started that about 3 years ago. Commission work.
Is it done through them?
Yeah, you could. There's pros and cons to that too. Obviously, they're taking a cut, but at the same time, they're managing all the negotiations, the timing, the logistics, and all you have to worry about is doing the work, and they take it away.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea how big the online sales market is, this is what I love, is like knowing how big is this market? What are the numbers involved in this? The US market alone for online art sales is $6.3 billion. That's just online sales of art. The worldwide market is $10.8 billion. The online market has been growing at an increase of an average of 19% a year since 2017. The online market is growing faster than the economy is actually growing at a higher rate and is increasing at a faster rate than overall retail sales. In 2014, online sales represented only 2.4% of the entire art market. In 2019, it was 9%. In 2020, it was 20% of the entire art market sold online. In 2014, 40% of buyers were buying art online. Now 68% of buyers purchase at least some of their art online. 1/3 of all art online goes to new buyers. That also means 2/3 is going to repeat buyers, right? And the majority of online art actually sells for under $5,000. So that doesn't mean you can't sell over that. It just means that the majority. So, and I was looking at like business magazines like Barron's and things like that for all these statistics, because it's just interesting to know that the market itself is massive. It's huge, and it's something that people are getting more and more and more comfortable with dealing with buying, and it behooves us as artists to actually take advantage of that and to be able to do it. Philip, I have a question for you. You have a brick and mortar and an online store. Which came first, and which of those two places sells more? Do you sell more online or more in your brick and mortar?
So I have had an online shop before I've had the brick and mortar. The online shop does a lot better than the brick and mortar, just based off of having the shop in Bridgeport. There's not too much foot traffic for especially what I do, but it is nice to have a physical store where people can come by, touch the fabrics, kind of get a whole vibe of what I'm about, smell the incense that I'm burning, hear the music I'm playing, see the furniture I've designed, and then actually interact with me. So having a physical store for what I do is definitely a benefit, but also having the online presence, that's like my bread and butter. And I'm also able to ship worldwide and, you know, kind of have my fan base be able to purchase things that way. But yeah, everything's a trade-off to some extent.
I would imagine having the brick and mortar, you get to create the vibe, and that probably feeds into your inspiration and your creativity too, because you're constantly reinventing that and redecorating and everything. In
Yeah,
there.
for sure. I mean, if you think about the online store as a physical space where you always have to do like some spring cleaning and kind of revamp and redo your brand identity, that's kind of what I do like every 2 years. As online, I usually try to find a new theme because I get bored of what is happening right now, and try to look at different websites that aren't necessarily clothing. So the last website that I kind of looked at for inspiration was a furniture and interior design website because of the way that they present themselves. And I've never wanted to be a clothing brand that kind of copies another clothing brand. I've always wanted to find inspiration in other art and kind of see the connection between the two. So that's like one thing I would say to people is look at other art that's not necessarily the field that you're in for inspiration, whether it be website or just subject matter in general.
Oh, that's
So
excellent.
could you tell us how Shopify basically works, and also what its pros and cons
Yeah, so I guess the way that I do my business is it's collection based. I'll design a collection and then I'll release it every 2 months or so. So the way that Shopify works for me is that I'm able to put a lot of items up. I pay a monthly fee. I pay about $80 a month for it. And then on top of that, I find themes that are normally free, and then I'll tweak the themes to my liking. And I guess that is the main reason why I like to use Shopify, is that I have control over the complete image and appearance of how people stumble upon it, and try to do my best of showing as much content as is. But in terms for the Shopify stuff, I'm able to use it as a blog. I'm able to have my own web pages as well, all integrated with the web store itself.
So you have a lot of control.
I have a lot of control, and I also have a lot of product that needs to be shown. And I also have the control of doing the quantities for my brick and mortar, and have the point of sale system through that, and also do the online inventory as well. So it's linked up. So if someone buys a shirt at the shop, at the brick and mortar shop, it will update to the online store as well, and that helps me a lot.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your, like, the inventory is about how many?
So let's say per style, it's about 36 pieces per style, and I'll probably do anywhere from like 5 to 10 different items. So in the hundreds overall. And then going back to what Russell was saying with the shipping, I guess like doing bulk and stuff, they give me a really good price on shipping when I print a label through Shopify. So normally, let's say like a USPS package will go anywhere from like $20 and up at this point. It's half of that. I'm shipping probably like, or I'm paying $10 to ship domestically. And then for DHL is what I normally use to ship internationally. And they give me a really good discount on DHL. DHL, if without the discount, can be anywhere to $100 and up. What I normally pay with them is, if I'm shipping to Canada, it's about $25 to $30. And then if I'm shipping to Japan or anywhere in Asia, it's about $40. So I'm getting about, it could be like $100 discount shipping internationally. And I do have a big market internationally, so it helps me a lot. Just having people be able to connect and support me, knowing that they're going to pay a flat fee, they're not going to get charged customs fee because of DHL and the way that they have their thing figured out.
Oh, that's significant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So Shopify gives you the label to DHL and USPS?
Yeah, they have, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, but they have an agreement where if you use Shopify and you go with them to print out the labels instead of going to the actual DHL store or the USPS store, they give you a discount on what you ship out. And from there, I have like my own custom branded like envelopes, because what Russell was saying about presentation is key, having an experience to when you open up the package, and kind of that is your first like meeting with the customer, is how they open up your package and what they receive inside. So I have my branded tape that I use to package everything. I have my branded envelope that's recyclable, so it says that it's recyclable and that you can reuse it. And then I have recycled tissue paper as well, so everything is kind of conscious when I do my stuff.
That's excellent. Nicky, what would you say, I can give you this too. What would you say are the pros and cons of selling on a platform like Etsy? And I know Etsy recently changed a lot of their policies, and they're less friendly now to people who are making things themselves by hand, and more friendly to resellers. Are you finding that's affecting you at all? And I know you just said that you're starting your sell on your own website, but what would, if somebody was getting started today with Etsy, what would you feel are the kind of pros and cons of working with Etsy?
I mean, as I said before, Etsy, if you're starting out and it's feeling a bit overwhelming trying to work out everything, Etsy is great in the sense that you don't have to worry about sales tax. They calculate all the sales tax for you and you don't have to, they pay it all directly for you. The shipping label is the same thing. You can print an order comes in, you get a notification, you print your shipping label directly from Etsy with a significant discount. And you can choose whether you're working with USPS or UPS. You can choose the different platforms. I think it's USPS and FedEx, I think, on Etsy. From my website, I think I have more options. So Etsy keeps it very simple, but at the same time, They take, it's not a big commission on what you sell. I think it's 6.5%. It used to be 5%, and now they take 6.5%. It's gradually going up. But you do have to pay a listing fee for every item that you have on there. And I think it's every 4 months. And it's something that's very low. It's like 20 cents. So when you first start putting items on, oh, this is nothing. I can list everything. And then all of a sudden you start, if you're not selling, you start getting bills and saying, oh, well, this is your bill for, you might have, I've had at times like 250 items on there, which is when you realize you've got to start grouping things. If you have, I don't know, if you're selling 8x10 prints, don't have 10 listings for the prints separately. You can put one print on there and have different options for that print, so people can choose a design of that print. So then you're only paying for one listing at a time. Yes?
Do they have anything kind of like mock openings or things to sort of pull people in, like an event or anything like that?
No, they don't do anything like that. Anything you can advertise through Etsy, and the way that works is you say which items you want to promote. They put them higher up on the listings or something. If somebody's searching for something, they put it higher in the ranks. You don't have to pay anything unless somebody clicks on your listing. Once they've clicked on your listing, then you're paying the commission. Whether they buy it or not, you're paying a fee.
One more question, please. So are you, for the most part, doing all of your own gathering of customers?
Yeah, people can find you on Etsy. When you go onto Etsy, you can say, okay, I'm searching for cat paintings. And then, there's probably, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people selling cat paintings on there. So if you wish to appear in the listings, you're kind of, you can get lucky. You can put keywords in for each listing, which I have done religiously. I'm not convinced that it really helps you that much. But if you're advertising, they put you high in the rankings. So instead of being on page 27, you can be in the first few pages. So you're more likely to have somebody look at your work. But with advertising, I found I have to be careful because some items that people click on them a lot, but they don't buy them. So that gets kind of pricey. People are clicking because there's not also with Etsy, the advertising works, there's not a set fee per click. They have this strange system of calculating, well, how popular is your listing? How much competition is there? And then depending on what they think is a fair price, they're charging you that per click. So if you're, I found I tried advertising, holiday periods, because otherwise you're lost in the sea. There's so many people on Etsy. The first year it worked very well. The second year I realized I had to be a lot more careful about it. I was selling maybe a note card, and I was getting all these clicks on this note card, and nobody was actually buying it. So you end up paying $50 to advertise this note card that nobody's getting. So you've got to keep tabs on things, but you don't have to advertise. Yes.
What's the average price of your work?
On Etsy, I should on
say,
Etsy.
Well, yours too, but in general.
Oh, in general, I wouldn't know because there's a whole range of things. I don't think people sell too much of the higher end price items. Mine would go anything if it's like a note card from $5 up to, I don't sell large originals on there, but anything up to like about $300. That'd be my price range on there. But Etsy, I do feel with Etsy that if somebody doesn't know me from some other platform or an in-person event, they're not likely to buy one of the higher end priced items. I feel it certainly has more of the craft side of it as well, not just an art platform. But yeah, it keeps it very simple. But for the restrictions that it has, they also have a star seller program that they do now, which you have to fulfill certain requirements each month. And if you fulfill all these requirements, like fast shipping, answering people's questions within 24 hours, there's a whole list of things, a number of sales, then you get a little star seller badge, which is great and very exciting. But they have very there was, I mean, I've been a staff seller every month since the program started until last month because I bought an item from another seller and they sent me an email to say, oh, thank you for your purchase, it's on its way. I didn't reply to that email within 24 hours, so I lost my stars last month, which I was indignant about. But it's a lot of sellers have complained about it because there's it puts a lot of pressure on you, and they try to they really encourage you to offer free shipping with your items. And they say, well, you know, you can bump the price up, but there's certain things you don't want to make it, you know, sometimes shipping, if you're shipping abroad, it can be, you know, fairly pricey, you know, even for a small item. So it, you know, it doesn't feel fair to me to say, well, this, you know, I'm selling a mug, it's $45. Like, well, no one's going to want to buy it, but, you know. And they do with the shipping, if you don't offer free shipping, they don't rank you as highly in the listings. But I find with Etsy, it's the sales I make, it's through Instagram, it's through people who already know me. And so that's, you know, and my website the same as well. I'm just constantly redirecting people there. So if I do a painting, I put it on Instagram and I say, now available on Etsy. And that's where the sale usually comes from, not from, I mean, I do get random people coming in through Etsy, but, you know, the vast majority are, you know, I have a small community of faithful repeat customers. And,
I guess that's my question too. Was these are very structured sites with, you know, elaborate systems. How does social media compare? You sort of already mentioned Instagram. I mean, do any of you sell on Instagram directly, or is it, or other social media platforms, or does it just drive people to the system that you're using?
I mean, for me, it took forever. It was a very painful, like I'm talking about months. It took me, they used to make it very difficult to set up an Instagram shop. It was a horrible experience, and I finally got it worked out, and then I decided actually it wasn't worth doing, so I went just back to Etsy. So I use my Instagram. I use that to direct people either to Etsy or my website, depending on where I'm selling the item. You know, I also, I mean, you can link in the whole idea is that you can link your Instagram shop to your website, you know, through Instagram, but it gets very, I find it gets very messy, you know, and it's tricky enough for me if I have items on my website and Etsy at the same time, then you start getting into stock issues and, you know, forgetting what you've sold where.
How about you?
Yeah, I do. I have my Shopify linked up to my Facebook account, and I believe you have to have like a creator page on Facebook. So I have like a Dirtbag group or page for everything, and that is linked up to my Instagram, which is also linked up to my Shopify. So when I upload a product to Shopify, I do have the option of clicking if I want it to appear on like the Facebook Market or the Instagram, and that way when I do post, I have new products on Instagram, like a bubble where it's like a direct link to the product comes up when I do post on my story, or it's like a tagged product on the actual post. So it cuts out the deal, or it cuts out the point of like someone needing to go to the actual website. They can just click on the tagged product, go to the tagged product, and either pick their size or whatever and then purchase, which has helped in the long run just because people don't want to go through all the pages to get to checkout. It's way easier when it's just like a one-page type of thing. So yeah, I do use Instagram and Facebook to link the web store for easier purchasing.
It's mostly in directing. You're not actually selling directly on?
Correct. It's using Instagram mixed with Shopify. It is like a directing, but it's also, it cuts out going to the actual website. You're able to purchase straight on Instagram.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I love how this, actually, many of these systems allow you to really integrate other system.
Correct. But the downfall with that is you do need a Facebook page, and you do need to have a page on Facebook for the art or whatever. Not,
Do you pay twice? Do you pay Facebook something
nope.
and Shopify?
no. I just pay Shopify, and I just looked at the percent that they take. I pay $79.99 a month, and then they take 2.6% of every credit card sale plus 30 cents.
I just wanted to say with the integration like between Instagram and Facebook, the main issue is if you're trying to do it with Etsy, it's not the same as linking to your website. I did manage it in the end, but it was a horrendously complicated process because you don't own the Etsy domain. But yeah, when I did it through my website, it was a little easier.
How about you, Russell?
So definitely Instagram is a awareness generation sort of follower tool for me. It's where I generate most of my connections to followers and potential collectors, and then I drive them to Saatchi. But I also sell other ways too. So what I use is the link tree in the Instagram, and I give them the choice of which they would like to purchase the originals. I give them as many options as possible.
Daniel, you have a question?
My question has to do with customer service. Seeing that you guys are using Instagram, Facebook, other social media platforms, do your shopping platforms also provide a customer service portal?
I'll say for Saatchi, absolutely, and that's one of the benefits, as I mentioned earlier, is they provide the connections, they provide the go-between, and they provide the responses back and forth to the customer. So when the customer submits a bid on your behalf, they're responding back to the potential buyer. Thank you, responding to them and saying, we're in contact with the artist and we'll get right back to you on terms of if they accept your bid and or your proposal. And then if it's all accepted, they take care of everything else, the whole logistics. Here's the status of your shipment. Here's when to expect it, and they maintain that relationship for you. And then the collector gets your information, obviously. And what happens normally is I'll always get an email back directly from the collector that purchased the work. Just says, here it is, and they send pictures and they show it on the walls and whatever. But they can connect you back directly. But yeah, Saatchi does all of that for you.
Do you have to submit your work and they determine whether they'll accept it or not, or anybody can do that?
There is a vetting that happens when you first establish your relationship with Saatchi. So yes, you submit your work to them, and they get right back to you and provide you not only their answer, but they give you guidance too, because they're pretty protective of their whole entire art community. So.
Do they charge your transaction fee as well as the 35%?
If they do, it's hidden. I don't see it. We track the percentage they take off. The only thing sometimes that they do, which is probably maybe one of the other disappointments, if there is a bunch of them, is sometimes they have sales, right? And so they'll package that around specific seasons, and then for any collectors that come in, they may get a percentage off of a volume purchase, or maybe off of their first buy. So they offer incentives back to the buyers, and then they check with, if you do get a bite, they'll check back with you to say, do you accept this percentage? And you can deny it and say, no, that's too big of a hit, and they'll work with you that way. But that happens sometimes.
Do you link the Saatchi to Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What else is in your link tree?
I have a couple of galleries that one in Westport and there's one in Atlanta that they're representing the originals. So I will link directly to their galleries, and they ironically are they use Shopify as well, and as their platform on their website. So they integrate it into it.
So it's getting really complex, the relationships.
It's interesting. The gallery in Westport tells me that they make. I think you even mentioned it, Philip. It's like your bread and butter sometimes happens online, as opposed to walk-in traffic, and they're finding that to happen more and more and more.
Yeah. We had about 5-6 years ago. We had a conference with looking at the sort of state of the art in terms of selling with galleries, curators, and so on. And I mean, this was 5 years ago, and the galleries represented all said that now walk-in sales were only 30%, and internet was growing at this incredible rate. Actually, no, Phil, you have your own gallery, so you don't have a conflict there. And you have galleries. Now, Nicky, do you have a gallery that you work with?
No, I don't.
Okay. So that was one question, whether there was any conflict between brick and mortar galleries and online. And you're saying that it's kind of, they all work together somehow?
Most of them do. I ran into some where where I'll start a relationship and they'll say, "So you're on Saatchi," and the way they work is very simple. They'll say, "Look, if you reserve the rights to originals that will not appear on Saatchi that we will have in our shop, then it'll be cleaner for us. But if you still would like to leverage Saatchi, then they ask to see about getting a percentage." And so I don't normally do that.
As long as they sell,
Yeah.
you're happy with that?
Well, yeah. So that's why I try to keep it clean. Anything on Saatchi is on Saatchi. Anything that's original is over with them. I don't like to blend it because it gets really confusing sometimes.
Oh, so none of your original works are on Saatchi?
No, the original works are on Saatchi, but no original work that's on Saatchi is sitting in a gallery at the same time. Yeah.
Does the gallery represent you well?
Yeah, they do. They almost do the online version of what Saatchi does, is all the marketing and all the PR and promoting the work on their own social. And so you're tapped into their network as well. And then they have, like Metro Art Studios does, is they have events where they have open studios or open galleries like we have here, and they promote that. When your piece is in there, they'll promote you. And this is year round.
But you make enough money off of Saatchi that you wouldn't let that go.
I wouldn't let it go because of the exposure to the global database that it has, and just the feedback from the other artists, because they get to, you follow each other, and they'll contact you, and you get to see their work, and that's something that's pretty priceless. But the other thing is the algorithms that they have they've worked on that for I don't know how many years. So they have a programmatic media algorithm in Saatchi, so that any of their buyers that comes in and they say they view your work, so they go off and anywhere else they browse, whether it's Amazon or anything else, guess what? Your artwork follows them around, just to remind them that that's where it taps into their. Yeah.
But isn't that kind of like having two girlfriends?
I never had two girlfriends.
I mean, it kind of feels like you're not giving your galleries as much support.
Well, no, the galleries get a completely different support. They're, like I said, I separate a completely exclusive different pieces for them, and I do the same attention to them as I do Saatchi for the other pieces. And they have their own platform as well that does a lot of work for them. And so, no, the same effort applies to the galleries. It's just a little different because instead of shipping or instead of having to worry about shipping the work to like a Saatchi, I have to worry about posting up on the walls and in the galleries. I'm just uploading for the galleries, and for the physical galleries, I have to literally ship the originals to them. And so, yes, that's still a lot. I have to keep that relationship going as well.
I have a question, and then she has one too.
Yeah.
The question I have, I guess, is for everyone. But when you produce your work on like T-shirts and mugs and different items, do you have like a separate? This is my art for galleries. This is my art for accessories and items, or is everything like a free? You can put it anywhere, and because does it change the value? I've always wondered if it changes the value of your original work if you mass produce it, like, because you know how we always have like limited prints or limited such and such. Is there work that you isolate as opposed to reproduce?
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know how much you put on other products. I think I put a lot of my stuff on products. I don't separate it out. I haven't found that it's affected. I think people, when they see, if they really like the original, they're not worried about whether they're with the people that I work with, they don't seem to be worried about people having prints of it. I don't do so much of prints. Usually prints, it's, when people ask me if they can do one, I don't do too much in prints unless they're a limited series of like resale prints. Like, for example, this is one of my paintings. It was 12 by 16. I put it on a notebook. Somebody's got the original. A lot of people I find, like with the smaller paintings, not the larger ones, there's often a bit of fierce, like friendly competition between people who are regular buyers. And then, so quite often, if I then put that painting which somebody sold that somebody else want, I put it on a product, then the person who also wanted that painting, they'll come along like, well, I couldn't get the original, it's sold, but I've got to have this on a notebook, or I've got to have it on something. Obviously, I prefer to sell originals rather than the printed products. But it's, for me, it's a way also of making it more widely available to more people. I mean, not everybody has the pocket to be able to buy an original. And that was one of the reasons I started doing it. And, in different places as well, if I'm doing an in-person market, I don't take as much original work because people are more likely to buy the products than they are an original. Yeah, that has happened too, yeah.
You have a question?
It's for Nicky. I have 3 questions. I wanted to know what you sell on your website. I wasn't clear. Is it paintings? You just said you sell accessories as well.
Yeah, on my website, I mean, I basically sell the same things on my website as I do on Etsy, but I try and keep the stock separate. And yeah, I sell both original paintings and accessories. So accessories could be notebooks, mugs, bags, that kind of thing.
So how do you drive business to your website? Is it through newsletters and that kind of thing? What do you like about Squarespace as your e-commerce platform?
I mean, I don't have another e-commerce platform to compare it to. I started off, I didn't use the e-commerce on Squarespace. When I started out just as a website. I was already using Etsy. I didn't want to pay the additional fee to set up the e-commerce platform. But the nice thing about it is you can have your website, and at any point you decide, well, I want to add e-commerce. You just, it's a click of a button and you have that platform set up, and it's like setting up your website on Squarespace. It's very, very simple to do. And I chose Squarespace because I like the templates they have. They're very neutral. They look very professional, in my opinion. They have one that's specifically for artists, so you've got a gallery there, and it's just very clean and very, very neutral. So I already have my website there, so I thought, well, when I decided I wanted to sell on the website, I just added the e-commerce option there.
Okay, so for everybody, have you seen an increase in growth year over year with online sales versus in-person sales? And do you see online sales as something that's increasing in your business, something that you would tend to focus more on, more effort on, more time on, and hope to see the rewards of that, of having that expand as part of your business?
Do you want me to go first? Okay. I'm still working that one out. It's always, it's been growing. Definitely the online platform has been growing steadily, not as fast as I would like. It would be great if it, suddenly skyrocketed and really took off. But it is, there's a base gradually building. But I do feel that the key for me is getting people to, where to find the people, and that always seems to come from another platform for me. Like either people find me through Instagram, or if I have a show somewhere, they see it there, and then they find me and they buy online. But I would say certainly for me, the in-person thing is very important. People like to meet you, and that certainly helps a lot. With the online selling, like everybody else has said here today, it's forming a relationship with the customer through the packaging. I always put a handwritten note, and that's building up the relationship there, and they get to know you, and it feels more personal. But both online and in-person sales are increasing, but I wouldn't be ready to drop one to leave it for the other. They both got their advantages and disadvantages.
What was the question? One more time. I'm so sorry.
Do you see online sales increasing as part of your business model? And have you seen an increase year over year of online sales?
Definitely. I think that's the goal, is trying to be better each year, whether that's like outdoing yourself or trying to make more work, or kind of reflecting on the year before and seeing what really worked. I mean, I do clothing, so like specifically sizes, colors, like what were people really buying and what can I emphasize more on. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now with this new year, where I have 3 different tiers of different kind of collections. I have my prototypes, which are like 101, like reworked pieces. And then I have my Divine Energy collection, which is more refined, cut and sew. The jeans I'm wearing are part of that. And all of the Divine Energy collection is made in Bridgeport. I'm using a seamstress who does all the figure skating uniforms for the state. So my real idea is trying to like vertically integrate Connecticut through that collection. And then I have the dirt bag thing, which is more for like the kids, because I always try to think about when I was 12 or 13. And I think that's kind of like the key for what I do, is trying to be the person I wanted to be when I was younger through the clothing, and giving that accessibility to people that want to enter my world. So you're able to enter the world either through a prototype piece, which is a 101, and you feel special that you have a 101 piece. And then you can either dive deep into like the branded stuff, which is the dirtbag stuff, or if you want to get that one really nice piece that you will cherish and it's a higher price point, you'll go through the Divine Energy, and everything kind of works together. And I have all 3 displayed in the store, and I think it is a better way to market the pieces, because people can come in, try on the stuff, kind of get the background of each piece and why I made it, along with printed zines that I do to showcase the lookbook that I shot, or just the people in the clothing itself, so people can actually imagine what it is to look like. Yeah.
Cool. And Russell?
I echo what Philip just said. Is it's go on e-commerce. For me, I think it's definitely I see e-commerce continually growing, but I also see that you need to diversify yourself when you're online, and so that means for me, I found that. Not just centering everything onto Saatchi, but I'm looking at how just continually building my audience on Instagram is been critical for me, because it leads to keeping a balanced, integrated ecosystem of both online and offline at the same time, because each feeds each other. My online drives awareness, but then the physical in-person also drives back to the online presence. And so I see growing beyond, or continuing with Saatchi, but growing other channels as well, because I think there's so much going on right now. I like all of a sudden, the biggest percentage of what's coming in for me lately has been direct commission work right off of Instagram. So Instagram goes to the link tree, they see my profile, and they'll go directly to a form that I have on my website. And yeah, I use Squarespace as well. And there's a component that you can put onto your sites called JotForm. And JotForm, it's a really cheap subscription base, but it has complex forms that give you the ability to emulate pretty solid e-commerce activity on your sites. So that is just yet another channel. And my point is like I'm just growing organically multiple channels instead of just putting everything into one platform. JotForm, JOTFORM. Yeah.
So you said with your sales, with your gallery versus your percentage of sales, is it half and half, 70/30? Is it
The percentage between.
gallery versus Saatchi?
Oh, so I would say from gallery and Saatchi, I would say it's like 40-60. So 40 gallery, 60 Saatchi. Yeah. Last year it was worse. Not worse. It was more like 70-30. Yeah. Especially when I first started with Saatchi, it was almost 90% Saatchi. Yeah.
Less artists in the earlier days.
Yeah, it was. I still go back to the early COVID days, as you were saying. Everyone, it was a weird time we were going through, weirder, and I thought, what the heck? Let's just try this out. I didn't think there was anything going to happen, and I was getting bombarded on Saatchi during those earlier years. And it's not that it's slowed down. It's just that there's a select group of buyers on right now, and there's just more artists that joined Saatchi since then. Yeah.
Here's a question.
Typically, what physical size is the artwork you sell on Saatchi?
On Saatchi, an average is like 30-30. The largest one I sold was a 72-62 or something like that. It was huge, and there was two of them that had to ship to Singapore, and that was the biggest nightmare in my life because I had to crate those. And don't get me started on crating. They didn't want to roll it up, and they wanted it framed or stretched because they didn't want to deal with. Oh yeah. Yeah, but the normal average for what I found in the data, the statistics are medium sizes are what sells a lot on Saatchi, like the 30-30s, 24-24, 30-40s, 16-16s. The smaller pieces, they fly on Saatchi, but and then average prices. They can go up. I've seen going out the door for 10,000, from 7 to 10, and then the averages are like what you're saying, around the 5 ranges, up to 5. Probably the big bulk is in the, $1,500 ranges.
Does Squarespace do print to order the way the other ones do? Like, do you have to pack and ship everything? Like, when I've seen people use, I have Squarespace, but I've never done the shop.
And I've seen people like online, they always have to package and do all the packaging and send them off.
I do all my own packaging.
They don't have the option of print order.
No, I mean, you can do the shipping label, but you have to. I mean, I think you can integrate. There are certain print-on-demand platforms that you can integrate with Squarespace. I think Art of Wear, which is based in Canada, you can integrate the two platforms together, and then they're linked, and then people can like make the order, and it gets shipped directly to them. I don't do that because I like to do my own packaging. I find it's very impersonal if somebody just clicks on it, it comes in a plastic bag. There's no note. It's not, I have my own printed tissue paper and stickers, and I always put a note card in there. I prefer to package it, but I think you can do that with Squarespace.
You definitely can.
Yeah.
Is it better to sell frame or thin frame if it prints?
For prints? For prints, I think the majority, what I've seen is that it really doesn't matter. The buyers are buying them prints. If they're buying prints, they're buying them just matted and just protected that way. They don't have to be framed. For the majority of my work is all just on gallery wrapped canvas, and there's just a small sampling that I would have any of my paintings framed, but you do specify that when you upload your work, that if your work is framed, you just you put it into the descriptor of that the painting is framed.
When you say a wrap canvas, that's a reproduction.
Gallery wrap meaning like the clean corner wrap.
But it's not an original, it's a reproduction.
Oh no. My paintings are original, and I gallery wrap them, the originals. But for I stopped selling prints about 2 years ago, and it was just a preference. I decided to stay with just originals.
I just had one question about pricing. I didn't want to get into the whole issue of how you set pricing, but I was just curious whether online you find yourself adjusting prices perhaps more than otherwise. Once you've got a price, do you
Are they
stay there?
consistent? Is it consistent? Do you charge the same price in person or in a shop or in a gallery that you do online? And do you ever offer any discounts online? Like sometimes Saatchi does. Would you ever have a discount if someone was ordering multiples, or, because you were trying to clear out inventory, or you were trying to buy something big and you needed money?
So as far as consistency's sake, the answer is yes. The galleries that I work with, they cross-check against the online world, and they say, okay, so you got a 30-30 on Saatchi that's selling here. This piece here should not be cheaper. They definitely don't want to be cheaper, and so they monitor that. But again, it sometimes varies if it's a completely different piece that you're selling, but they look at sizes and they try to get it as consistent as possible. I think primarily because I think they've run into issues when a collector will come in and say, I want that piece, but what he sells online and they're cheaper or something like that. And so they or what's wrong with the value? They start questioning things like that. But as far as offering discounts, like I mentioned, sometimes they will run a promotion. And if something sells under a promotion, they give you the right to decline it.
This is Saatchi.
Yeah.
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 Discounts, yes. I do discounts once in a while, just when I need to clear out for the next season. I try not to do discounts though. And when I do a discount, it's normally through the newsletter, and I don't publicize it otherwise. So it's really for the people that sign up for the newsletter, and I guess in a way they feel sort of special that they have access to something that the general public doesn't. But I have sold to stores in the past. I've sold to Barney's, and there was a time when Barney's put my stuff up for sale, and that left me with a weird taste in my mouth, just because I feel like it didn't devalue the brand, but I didn't want to be in the same category as the rest of the brands that were in the sale rack. So that made me want to just do straight up direct to consumer besides my international retailers in Japan, because they up the price on my pieces based off of the shipping and the accessibility in.
Are your prices the same brick and mortar and online?
Correct, yeah. Yeah. If anything, I do give a little discount when people come into the shop, whether it be like a free pair of socks for making it to the shop, just because I believe that like time is the most valuable thing that we all have. So anyone that takes the time out of their day to visit the shop in Bridgeport in the Arcade Mall, I try to make it the best experience as possible, and they leave with a feeling of goodness, because people remember how you make them feel, not what you say to them or anything else.
That's great. Nikki, are your prices the same if you've got an online show, an in-person show versus your Etsy prices?
Mostly. Sometimes, there are some products that I favor selling in person rather than online because of shipping difficulties. So I may sell them a little bit discounted at in-person events. I do sales and coupons through the newsletter as well. It's one of the things I say, sign up for my newsletter and you may get a 10%, I send out different discounts and things like that. And I do sales when I'm finding that I have too much stock of one item, which does happen. When I want to clear the shelves, I'll put a sale out, and it definitely works. People do love a sale. And I'm just trying to adjust it as far as possible so I'm not losing money on some of the products I make. But yeah, I try and keep prices consistent. I've been in some stores and they have actually insisted. I was at a store in New Canaan and they said that I couldn't be selling my products more cheaply online than through them, which was tough as well because in the store they were taking, I think, 40% or 50%, and it's like, well, that doesn't leave me with much wiggle room there for me. Not 40% of the profit, but the 40% of the price. They're selling products. I don't have as much margin on those, so it's a juggling game. Some places are fine with it. Yes.
I just have a general question for the three of you. All of the sales part of the e-commerce, it takes so much time away from creating the art. Do you have a specific schedule that you work on? Like, how do you manage it yourself, and what percentage of your time is spent on that versus the creating the art?
Great question. Great question.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel we're failing at it, but
Yeah.
we're really doing what we are supposed to be doing instead, so.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, and I think, it's a cliche, but I think as artists, it's not our strong point, the whole e-commerce side and all that. Certainly not for me. I struggle with it, like having the organization to, dedicate the time to that. I do need to dedicate more time to that side of things. At the moment, I stretch myself between, I'm just scrambling around trying to get done what needs to be done. Obviously, when orders come in, that takes priority. I do make sure I have, fast shipping. Absolutely, yeah, and it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be. It should be, and I do mentor with a SCORE business advisor, and they're trying to get me to, I did actually one year, I planned out the whole year. I had my calendar of everything that needed to be done, and then it didn't really happen, but I do have that annual plan there. Maybe in 2024 I will use it. But I think the struggle is real because it does. I do feel that it eats into creative time because with the social media as well, you have to, for online sales. I find I have to be on Instagram every day, and that takes up a big chunk of my time. Because you want to make the reel look nice and, do it properly, not just throw everything out there. And sometimes I think, well, I could be painting, but you do what you can, I think.
I'm never not working is what I like to say. I am fortunate where I can like see the beauty in the art, like making art with whatever I do. So like whether that be like the product shots and then editing the product shots, I want to make the product shots as beautiful as I can possibly do that. Along with the website, I enjoy making the website as beautiful as possible and kind of as streamlined as possible. But in terms of the amount of hours that I'll do something, so I'm at the shop normally like 12 to 6, and during that time, I will go to my shop, do orders that need to be fulfilled. That will probably take like 30 minutes, catch up on emails, catch up on the website stuff, and then I'll go into creating for the next 4 hours. And then the last 2 hours, I'll kind of chill and reflect and kind of make a plan for tomorrow, like a vague plan. I try to think about things like 3 months in advance, have like a vague idea of what I want my 3 months to look like, and then kind of just act in the moment. I'm also disabled. I have an ostomy bag, so I have to put that into account when I do work. So I try not to, because I got burnt out during the pandemic and got severely sick because I opened up a New York store, and then I had the shop in Bridgeport, and I was moving and doing all this crazy stuff. So I do know what it means to be extremely burnt out and spreading yourself too thin. So what I'm doing now is I try to take Mondays and Tuesdays off to have like a free day, an inspiration day, have different modes for myself as well, where I put on my business cap, I put on my creative cap, and then I put on my nerdy cap when I need to do my e-commerce stuff, whether that be doing the product shots, editing the product shots, uploading the product shots, doing the description. But I think the only way that you can really beat it is finding the beauty in every task, so it's not so daunting. Thinking of it as a privilege that I am able to make art and that I am able to put it up, and hopefully the intent that I bring to doing all that stuff will leave me with a positive outcome.
I have sort of a chaotic process of all of it because it does sometimes happen in waves. All of a sudden, there'll be 5 or 6 orders of commissions, and then there'll be 3 shows, and then 2 Saatchi comes in. So it comes in waves where always the collector comes first, and so I just make sure that I get the pieces to the individuals, to the shows, whatever needs to happen. And then I just schedule time at night after the day to then go back and look at, okay, what needs to be done, put the business hat on and just say, what needs to be updated. And then lastly is just to take care of all the little nuanced things, such as, have you connected back with your community? Have you checked in with any comments? Have you, those kind of things. So you sort of like get into a routine, but it changes almost sometimes every other month, depending upon the work that comes in and the priorities that come in the door. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question about the mechanics of things. So all of this online sales stuff is very dependent on the images that you post, right? If the image is not good, people can't see the artwork, they don't like the artwork, you'll get overlooked for somebody with better images. Do you have a process set up? Like, do you have a dedicated space for photography? Do you have a certain day or routine that you use for photography? Like, do you finish a work and immediately photograph it and post it? Do you wait till the end of the month and photograph everything all at once? Do you have a like a formula that you use where, like I know Saatchi has suggestions where you need pictures of the sides and the back, and that because people can't see it and they're spending a lot of money and they want to be sure what it looks like from every possible direction. So they make you upload a lot of photographs from a lot of different directions. But do you have a number? Do you say I need to have 6 photographs of each item from different directions in the, like a spreadsheet or something mental that you're kind of keeping track of that? And how many pictures do you typically post on that? How often do you post? How often do you photograph? Like the mechanics of that part of it, which, you know, kind of goes into how much time are you spending on this? And Philip, can I just say, I love the idea of seeing every part of this as creative, so that you're not feeling like you're taking time away from creativity. You're actually just channeling it in a different direction.
Expanding.
Exactly. Beautiful. So photography, that's what we're talking about.
I'll answer quickly on the Saatchi thing. So first of all, I can't agree with you more. Is one of the challenges of online is that you probably all know that RGB is deadly to artwork. And no matter how much you try. So illuminated light coming from screens, whether if it's on your iPhones or phones, computer monitors, is an illusion to what the pigments are really like. Sometimes it captures it, sometimes, or a lot of times it doesn't. There's something about illuminate light that drives me nuts when I'm trying to get that color, and then no matter how hard I mix and try, there's just you can't get that. On the flip side, though, when you create a piece, the original art, the digital world or the online world, the RGB colors, they distort and sometimes compress the colors and either make them too vibrant, they may change the hue. So the way around all of that, as I mentioned earlier, was you definitely need a good tool like a Photoshop to color correct your work. But and Daniel probably hear me on this one, is you got to start off with great photography. You have to make sure that your art is not being distorted by any filtered light, any yellowish light. So my success has, without the access to great equipment, has been to use as much natural light as possible on your work. You don't want direct sunlight on your work. You think of it, the best days that I've had for my artwork is when it's cloudy. So you have this huge, light box, and it distributes the light nicely and naturally onto your work so that's not distorting color. And then I show one environmental shot so that it's in context to a room. And then lastly, I'll maybe show it on the easel to show a little bit of a 3/4 angle so that you could see perspective of the piece. That's usually what has worked best on the Saatchi platform for me.
What kind of camera do you use?
It's like an SLR Nikon. I think it's a 750, I believe it is. I sometimes, if I have to do a quick study, I'll even use the iPhone, the newest lens, to do a quick study using that, because sometimes that works fine when you're posting on social.
So you also have to be a photographer.
Not necessarily. So what I do for like my product shots, I'm in the arcade mall. If you guys are familiar with the arcade mall, we have the beautiful glass ceiling with the natural light that comes in. I normally try to do my product shots as soon as I get in, around like 11 or 12. I have a blank roll of canvas, just white primed, and I roll that out, and then I put my products on top of that so I have a nice white background. I usually shoot around like 80 shutter speed, and then try to keep the exposure the same throughout. That way the background is slightly blown out, but not too blown out. But And then from there, I edit in Photoshop just because that's what I'm used to. But I did, I worked at Yeezy for a little bit and worked with Kanye West, and he was a very big proponent in using the iPhone for everything. And the way that you use the iPhone for your photography is that you zoom in past, you zoom in to use the newest lens if you have an iPhone like that. That way, it's as close to like the human eye as possible, and you're also getting all the detail with the newer lens. So you don't want to shoot on just the 1x. You want to actually zoom in a little bit, so you do get the detail with the newest lens on the newest iPhone. But in terms of content for photography, it's very big. When I went to Japan to do a pop-up shop, I'm in love with the way that Japan does their magazines and that the way they do their layouts and their product photography. So even that I see as an art, and I always try to see which way they're doing the shadows on specific clothing or specific items and trying to emulate that in a way. So when I did go to Japan for a pop-up shop, I noticed what kind of cameras they were using. And when I got back home, I bought the same camera that the shop that I went to use, which was a Fuji X100, I believe. And that camera really emulates like a film camera. It has the same kind of oomph to it. I don't really know, but I sold all my film cameras when I bought that, just to have the quality of like a film-like camera, but it's digital. But I have used in the past just a very basic Canon SLR, just like straight out of the kit, the 18 to 55. What I do try to do is I zoom in a bit so I don't get the the distortion. I try to get it as straight as possible. So I normally try to zoom in to at least like 33 or like 40 millimeters, I guess. And I have used the iPhone in the past just because get a quick result. You can always edit on that. You do need natural light. The portrait mode is always nice as well if you're shooting on somebody. But yeah, I believe like I always try to think about if this was my first time going to my website and these were the photos that the person saw for the first time, how would they react? Or what photos am I missing from that?
But you're not taking photos for reproduction purposes, really, right? You're not gonna print your shirts with those photos, right?
So let me touch base on that. I have legitimately shot a graphic that I wanted to get printed, sent that as an email at the highest whatever resolution, and then scaled that down to 300 DPI graphic and got that printed. Yeah, it works. Because, I mean, we're in a time right now, at least like for the kids my age, where we're having the iPhone as like, kids are getting record contracts making music using the iPhone mic. People are making hundreds of thousands of dollars of just straight off taking photos on their iPhone, uploading it to whatever e-commerce they want to use and getting it run up. But it's really, you make sure that the lens on your iPhone is clean. You're getting enough natural light. No, seriously, because some people forget to wipe off the lens after it's in your pan and they get discouraged because the lens is dirty or it's like foggy, and that's an easy, quick fix, and you can have a beautiful photo if you just wipe it off right before. So it's just being conscious of what you want to shoot, why you want to shoot. It's just the intent behind where it's going to go. So if you are shooting for reproduction, you should do the highest quality equipment. But if you don't have access to it, you shouldn't be discouraged. You should still use the iPhone. You should still just use whatever we have. And that's what it is being an artist. We use what we got and we make the most of it and we make something beautiful out of it. And that's, I think, the most important thing. It's not necessarily how you get there, but that you get there.
Well, I'm lucky in that I paint on paper. So if I'm doing my artwork, I scan it directly, and then that's ready for posting online straight away. And it's also, if I decide to use that painting to reproduce it on different things, I already have the scan. If I'm posting pictures of like a product rather than a painting, I use my iPhone. I can't stretch myself to learning photography, like, you know, with a proper camera. I love the iPhone. It's great for me. It works fantastically. And the nicest thing about the iPhone is you take the picture, it's on your phone, and you can just click and share it to Instagram. I mean, I do make adjustments. You know, sometimes even like, especially when doing a work in progress, I take a photo with the phone, and then I do adjust the colors, and I will literally have the picture there and my phone by the side. But I don't sweat it too much because, you know, everybody's going to be looking at it on a different platform. Somebody might be looking at it from their phone. Somebody might be looking at it on their computer. Everybody's screen, the brightness and all the configuration is different. So I try not to worry too much. I just say, okay, that looks like my picture on the screen, and I share it like that. And I do, when I'm doing product photography, I do try and stage it as much as possible. Outside is always fantastic. I've got a nice weather table outside, which works really well. You know, and I try and, you know, do a little bit of staging with other objects in when I can, but I do it when I have the time, you know, and depending on the urgency I have. For me, my time frame is I finish the painting, I scan it, and I get it out there, because if it's not out there, nobody's going to buy it.
So by scanning it, you mean put it on your copy, right?
Yeah, I have a scanner. I have a scanner. I just scan it directly into. I don't usually with a scanner. It does a really great job. I don't even have to mess around in Photoshop with it usually. You know, and I try. And another thing I use is I do use video. Etsy really encourages you to put a video of your product on there. You know, and I think they bump you up a little bit more in the rankings if you're using video. You know, it takes a little bit more time. You don't have to worry about the sound. Thankfully, they publish it without any sound there. And people do like it on Instagram. Like if I have a product, then you can like film it from different sides. Sometimes I look at the videos and I'm like, I don't know how, you know, professional this video feels, but it, you know, for the people that I'm working with, it doesn't really matter. They want to see it. You know, they even, sometimes when, you know, I've done ones with a voiceover and I'm cringing afterwards, you know, and you stumble over your words, and then people love it. I think it makes you more, you know, more approachable, more of a person rather than, you know, so yeah, I wouldn't say like, as you said, like lack of technology or ability even, it shouldn't like hold you back.
I would really like to share a resource that I discovered with all of you, and because I tried the photography thing, I'm a photographer in some ways, not a professional photographer, but I was in a group and someone suggested this kind of scanner that's a 3D scanner, and I was like, where could that be in the world? Well, it turns out it was in Danbury, and I do 3D art. And so I took my art up there after trying in the daylight, in the focus, I tried everything, and I was like, I have to give up art. And then I took my art up there and put it on this $500,000 scanner, and they scan it 1 pixel at a time. So they get, and they're artists who are doing these scans. So instead of having a photograph, I have the highest quality, museum quality output. They store my files for me. They give it to you in different sizes, so I can blow it up to whatever, as big as humanly possible. And their prices are ridiculously reasonable for the amount of time that I was spending. So I just like to tell everybody.
What's the company?
It's called Still River Edition.
Oh, Still River. Yeah.
That's great.
So to me, it's a joy to go there and then get my work back and see what they've done. And they've captured my 3D. The little nuances that you're talking about, and then they put it on this paper that you have to be certified for to even print on. And I cry every time I look at it, and I think, oh my God, I spent years trying to get good pictures.
Right.
And of course, with the 3D, it makes it even, you know, a little more challenging. But I just drive up, drop it off, drive back, pick it up, hug them, kiss them, pay them, and leave. You know, it's just changed my whole working model, and I just can't speak highly enough. If anybody wants to cry thinking about photographing their art they spent 40 hours making, I would just get in the car and tell them Lynn Moore sent me because they're that good. And Danbury, you know, I don't know exactly what part of Danbury. That's okay.
I do want to touch base on that. It's like if you do feel overwhelmed with whatever you do, you can outsource if you do have the means to, and it's not a bad thing to outsource. Right. But in the sense of for the website or doing photography, anything that you feel like will weigh you down or stress you out, you just gotta nick in the butt. You don't. There's always someone out there that will do it, and hopefully will barter with you if you don't have the funds to do it. Or, yeah, I just don't want to see people like stressed out that they have to do everything themselves. There are options, like going to Danbury.
And as a segue, the next artist work lab is actually how to make your own videos. And we have 3 experts who will be teaching you how to do it with your phone. So, yeah, that's September 6th. So sign up for that one.
What was?
Was it Still River Edition? Yeah, EGI editions.
What is your preferred printing, like local or national? What is your preferred for printing company?
Like for repros, like G Clays and things like that. I don't know. Do any of you print any G Clays?
I'm sorry, I used to be a print buyer. I've dealt millions of dollars in printing for my job. And I spent years on this as well. And if you don't care about the quality and you want to have somebody print it off and just have fun with your prints, you can do that with a Redbubble kind of situation, or, that'll do it for you, and then let it go and see what happens. But if you really care about it, have the Still River editions people do it, because it's going to be the best.
Yeah,
And so that's your question.
I've used Still River.
I also did Canva I did Move for my business cards and cards, because I like them looking expensive. And so Move for smaller things, and Canva did my business cards, and they did as well as Move did, because I like the rounded corners and stuff. So I'm really particular about it. But I also have had prints made in China, and they come back the wrong color, and they don't fix it, and it came DHL, and that's all there is. It's sad. So it just depends how you want to represent yourself.
Do you have any other questions? We got one back there.
Sorry, I don't actually know your name.
Russell.
Russell, yeah. So the talk tonight was all about selling on e-commerce, right? But sometimes I'm sure you get an inquiry from just someone who's seen your website and they want to buy things directly from you. What sort of questions do you ask them to make sure they're genuine? And if there are these different scams where someone will say, we'll just send you a banker's check or something, and then it turns out they send you more money than you asked for, and then you're being scammed. So how do you kind of verify someone is genuine?
So there's a formula of the typical scammer that hits your emails. There's a story that starts off with, about my wife really wants an anniversary gift. And I've seen this, and then they'll say, I've seen your works, it's really great. Can you tell me how something about, like, can you show me some work after they've said they've seen your work? Yeah. So you can see patterns in the grammar, but
And they need it quickly.
yeah. Right. They'll say, I'll send you a check, and then it'll pay, and I need you to pay my courier or something like that. Really weird stuff. So those kind of things are obvious, but there are some that will hit your social that says, hey, I saw your work, I'm interested. How much for this or this? I need to work with you on that. And what I normally do, my first thing to do is I'll send them the link to specific content on my website. And I'll say, here's some information for you. Thank you for reaching out. And then if they're legitimate, they'll respond back with legitimate questions. But if it was a phishing email or someone scamming on the social, they go silent, and you automatically weed them out that way. So I usually take the high road and say, thank you. Here's some links for information, and then If they're really serious and they're legitimate, you can tell because they will email you back or they'll message you back with real specific information of what they're looking for.
What do you think the person gets out of that?
Oh yeah, they want to drain your bank account.
I think people do it.
Yeah.
It's a billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
Even when somebody buys something from you at like a fair or something and you take checks, I always get them authenticated first. So like you can make sure that it's a real person and they really have the funds. Because even if you deposit a check and they don't have the money, you can be penalized.
What's a check?
Right, that's right. But sometimes when you vend outdoors and stuff, that people prefer to pay you that way. And then I always keep like their address or something, so if something is wrong, you can go back and contact them. But I would never deposit a check, no matter where it came from, without checking it first. The bank will do it as soon as they see it.
You wouldn't deposit a check.
I would ask the bank teller, can you please make sure the funds are there? Can you please make sure this is an authentic check? I've done it before. And then they'll check it before they deposit it. It's a thing. I promise you.
Have you already given them the work if they've given you a check at a show?
I stopped taking checks because I had that same thing happen. And somebody sent me a check so that I would mail them the work. And I went to the bank and I had them check the check and it wasn't real. So I wrote back, never write me again, you're a scam artist. And I never heard from them again.
Yeah.
But
So.
you can still go to jail with a bad check.
Yeah. So in the olden times, when we all had checks and nobody had debit cards and everybody was paying with check, the people used to ask you for your driver's license. And the reason for that, so if anybody's ever paying you with a check, don't be afraid to ask them for their driver's license and write it on the check. It is the only legal way to prove that the person writing the check is the person who is authorized to write the check. So that if you had to take somebody to small claims court because you gave them the work and you have a bad check in your hands, you can't legally prove that that wasn't a stolen check. The person could claim it. Like physically writing the driver's license on it is literally the only way that you can prove it legally. Yeah. So do we have any other questions? We wanted to thank our panel for joining us today. It's been phenomenally informative. I hope everybody's inspired to sell work online now with all the knowledge that they've gained. And you guys have just been amazing, like so generous in sharing information. And I feel like we just all know so much more now than we knew a couple hours ago.